And just like that, we are back with chapter 31 of the universe according to Mugsy. I am Mugsy, the creator. How are you guys? I'm so excited to check back in on you today. What day is it? What fucking day is it? Monday, May 6th, 2024. Hi, how are ya? How you guys been? How was your weekend? It's interesting being a podcaster nowadays. Happened to be having a conversation with one of my listeners, and they were saying, "Hey, how come you haven't been covering everything that's been going on these college campuses?" I touched on it about a week or two ago. Have you guys been losing your mind over this stuff? I told you not to freak out about that because it's not important, not for the reasons that you think. But that was a test. That was a test for all of you. How much time did you spend thinking about it? How many stories did you see in the mainstream media? How much news coverage did you see of Columbia and UCLA and Emory and other campuses across the country and these quote unquote riots and protests that were going on? How much time, guys, over the last week and a half? I told you not to worry about that. That's nothing more than a distraction. Those are useful idiots. Now that this time has gone on and we've allowed the situation to breathe and we've allowed the deep state to manipulate the masses enough to get them to do whatever they wanted to do, we can talk about it. That's how the news works, guys. You got to let it happen. Anybody claiming to know exactly what's going on at the moment that it's happening in real time is a fucking liar. It's not possible unless you are saying that you planned and executed something, right? Unless you're executing a plan, then maybe you know what's going on. Regardless, this is so fucking convoluted. I can understand how so many people get caught up in it. What is happening on college campuses across our country? Let's discuss. But first, let's make sure we remember something. What is going on college campuses across the country is a small snippet of what has always been going on college campuses across the country. This is for you guys. This is for anybody thinking about going to college. This is for anybody that's in college. This is for anybody that just got out of college. Do not get wrapped up in it. There are 48,000 people that go to the University of California, UCLA, Los Angeles. All right. Now, there were maybe 4, 5, 600 students on campus protesting, and I'm being fucking generous. Now, what is that as a percentage of the overall student body? That's a tiny percentage. We are also assuming that all of the people at these campus protests are students. We should not be assuming that. I can tell you for a fact that all of these people on those campuses are not students. How do I know this? Well, it's because protests and this shit hasn't been going on just this week or this month. It's been going on a long time. And some of the protesters that are on college campuses now are the same protesters that were in Great Britain for the Brexit protest. Okay? Now, what were these seemingly college students, right, doing in Great Britain when they must not have been college age to be doing international travel? That's because they're not college students. These are paid protesters. Who are they paid by? Good question. The same person that donated all of those tents. You will notice that across the country, all of these students happen to have the same exact tent. That's not because they all went out to Walmart and all happened to buy the cheapest one. Although that is an answer. It's not because these college students are so stupid they don't even know what they're protesting. And I'm sure you saw a couple of those videos. So they weren't prepared enough to run down to the local convenience hardware, furniture, outdoor store and pick up a couple tents. They don't know what they're doing, their children, at best. So these are donated by third-party independent organizations who like to sow dissent because they like the results of whatever is going to come out of this civil unrest. And that's really what it is. These are private institutions, right? Even the public ones are semi-private. Anything they do not like going on their campus, they have the right to remove the students from the university, right? If it's against the student code of conduct, you have the right to get rid of those students. Now, that's a problem for the university. Why? Because the university doesn't care about educating these students. The university is driven by money. They are incentivized to keep these students, paying them money. And how can they do that if they start kicking them out of school? Because if they kick the students out of school, next year, less students are going to want to come to their university for fear of being kicked out for protesting what the university is standing against, okay? You see how this is already getting convoluted? And we haven't even gotten to the thick of the Israel-Palestine protest. All we are talking about here is the structure of everything going on, how it's all set up and organized for a reason why I do not know. Not at this point in time. So there are outside actors coming on to college campuses, hoping to sow some sort of civil discord, right? And I don't know why. Not at this moment in time, but the university is at a particular, in between a particular rock and a hard place. Because what are they to do? If they kick these students out and lay down the law, the most basic bare minimum of what parents thought would be the case when they sent their students to college, safety, right? A safe environment for my students, for our children to learn. And the universities are refusing to provide that because they run the risk of being social outcasts, catching some of the heat from social media so that less students will want to attend their university next fall. You can't kick out all of the people that go to your university and still collect the checks. That's the problem, people. That's what I'm trying to say to you, okay? Now, what else? I mean, I guess we can dive into some of this. What is actually happening on these college campuses? What is this protest supposed to represent? Well, first and foremost, the reason that most of these fail is because there is no central message, right? And if you ask 10 people at this Palestine-Israel debate, they'll probably think that you're protesting 10 different things. But, however, let's give them the best case scenario here. Let's give them as much credibility as possible. What they should be protesting, and what a lot of them are the universities backing, standing behind Israel and funding Israel and Israel-backed businesses and not critiquing their government. Okay? That is not a particularly bad position to take. I can understand why students would want to stand up for their university to not back Israel at a time when Israel has killed 30,000 people, 70% of those being women and children, tens of thousands more injured, most of those being women and children. Anyone can take a look at the destruction of what once was Palestine and the West Bank, the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. and they can see that that area no longer exists. It is no longer inhabitable. This is a genocide, and it's important we start using that word. Anybody backing someone committing a genocide is not a good person. That's what these college students allegedly are protesting. And what is the result of that? That is the full force of the New York City Police Department coming down and clamping down on your protest in Manhattan. They are breaking through doors into halls at Columbia University that are literal traditions to protest in those halls. And there was a gun that went off as they were getting students out of that university, out of that building. Now, I don't want to stand here on my soapbox and stand up for these people who are asking for Uber Eats to be allowed to be brought in so that they can protest, because they're so out in left fucking field thinking that they are doing a good thing, virtue signaling, that they don't even know what the fuck they're doing. They're all being used as pawns, useful idiots. These are useful idiots to serve a higher agenda. Nonetheless, it doesn't mean that they weren't protesting a good cause. Now, this is where it gets interesting for me, because seemingly these students have energy, right? This is what I always talk about: energy, frequency, and vibration. They have energy that they want to use for good, and they are doing it to the ends with which they see available to them. Now, I don't understand why these young people are protesting an international fucking event. I get it. It's a big one. It's a genocide. But there's genocides going on all around the world. I don't hear anybody talking about the other genocides that are going on. We conveniently are not talking about the one going on in China, right? Allegedly. Or any of the ones that have gone on in Africa in recent times. So why this one? At a time, particularly, where there is nothing going for you, college students. I don't know if you've realized that. There are no jobs for you when you get out. Okay, our economy is propped up on a currency that is currently being devalued. Every day it's worth less and less. That's what inflation is. And inflation compounds over time. So it doesn't matter what year you were born. If it was after the year 1970, the inflation has compounded to make your dollar worth less and less. Now, for young people just starting out, trying to build a nest egg to allow to grow and compound over time under a capitalistic investment cycle, that would require you to have enough to fucking live already and have enough to save and hope and pray that this system is still standing when you retire. Because, guys, that's what I'm saying to you. There are far bigger things that you could be protesting right now. Okay? There are no fucking jobs. Your politicians are corrupt. We're at war with two different countries. They just gave away $100 billion. Your border is wide open. They are giving illegal immigrants, people whose first act in this country was committing a crime, $85,000 a year. They're putting them up in 5-star hotels. And they're charging you 8.5% interest on your student loans to pay for a degree that ain't worth the paper that it's printed on by the time you're done with it. But you have successfully made yourself an indentured servant. You're going to be paying off that debt for a long time. So I guess that hyperinflation is going to be working in your favor. Your best bet is to destroy this economy if you have debt. So, college students out there, what I'm saying to you is, what are you doing? What are you doing? Now let's talk about these protests and hypothetically why they were put into place. All right. So now what we're going to see on college campuses is a crackdown on thought, speech, policing. There are NYPD. There were 3 officers outside of every college dorm at Columbia. Um, you're not going to have freedoms anymore. Why? Because you've abused them. You have thought outside the box. You have an opinion that you are no longer allowed to have in this country. Woo-hoo-hoo! And that's why Congress just passed a bill that is illegal to critique the country of Israel. Isn't that interesting? Now these things are starting to get pieced together. Now we see why those college students were being useful tools to serve a higher agenda. Because now enough parents are freaked out that they believe that there needs to be something done. Instead of enforcing the laws and campus policies that are already in place to protect your children. So now Congress has gone out and passed a law that it's illegal to critique Israel, the country. That's correct. Forget about the fact that it's a First Amendment violation. Forget about the fact that basically the entire New Testament critiques Judaism and Israel. Forget about the fact that anti-Semitism in this bill is not defined. And in fact, anything that is believed to be anti-Semitic can be deemed anti-Semitic. This is how they take away your power, your freedom, your rights, God-given rights. That's what we believe in the United States of America, or that's what we used to believe. And it's important that if we still believe that, we start fucking enforcing this shit. Because how can we allow our politicians to pass a fucking law making it illegal for us to critique a foreign adversary, a foreign nation, whether they're our ally or our adversary? Why can't I say I don't like what fucking Canada's doing? I don't like the UK. I think their food sucks. And I don't like their foreign policy. I think they drop too many bombs on people. And I think their tea sucks. And I think they got shitty teeth. All right? Why can't I do any of that in this free country, America? So many of us died to protect these rights and these freedoms. And now we're giving them away. And it takes an international conflict and some portion of students to be enraged by it, or at least get swept up in it, for students to utilize their energy to really accomplish anything or achieve anything. Because Call of fucking Duty or whatever it is you're playing these, I don't even know the games anymore. Madden, is that still a big one? Or you're keeping up with the Kardashians, or you're watching the roast of Tom Brady. Who gives a shit? I love that man. I'm very thankful to him for throwing all those touchdown passes that I got to enjoy him watching, but that I got to enjoy watching him do. But he looks like a fucking alien. And he's got a lot of problems in his life right now. And I don't think friends go around sticking cameras in other friends' faces when they have a lot of problems going on in their life. I think it's very sad what happened to Tom Brady. He was one of the best to ever do something. Very few people understand the type of commitment and discipline one must have to accomplish that. And you have no idea the adversity that he faced. I don't think one can, because I don't think anybody could understand the backroom dealings that go on in the NFL. Those are billionaires that get together in a private room and they decide what's going to happen and they don't tell you about it. So if you don't think they were also working against Tom Brady and Bill Belichick over those 2 decades, I don't care if Kraft was a part of it. The 29 other owners in the NFL every year got together at those meetings and they put in rules to try and prevent the Patriots from winning another Super Bowl. The level of discipline one must have to have continued success in the face of that adversity is next level. And then eventually he's able to, build a family during that career and continue winning, which is insane. The guy seemingly has everything. But we now know he was lying to us. He was one of the best salesmen in the world. Where did he learn that? He married into it. Because Gisele Bündchen, as beautiful as she is an unbelievable marketer and brand ambassador. She has an unbelievable awareness of everything that her industry entails. She is the Tom Brady of modeling. And if you don't believe that, go look at the earnings of Victoria's Secret models. I forget the last year that I looked, but the last year that I looked, Gisele Bündchen was making $55 million. The next highest paid Victoria's Secret model was getting paid $5 million. And the next one behind that was 4.5 and 4 and 3.5 and 3. And that's because Gisele Bündchen is that much better than everybody else at just being hot and keeping her mouth shut, because it requires the two. That's why Michael Jordan never said anything politically, even though a lot of pressure was put on him to do so, because Republicans and Democrats both buy sneakers, and he was selling sneakers. Gisele Bündchen selling perfume and fucking watches. And you notice Tom Brady didn't make a lot of political positions either, because they were selling something that didn't really exist, that they had this perfect fucking life. But it wasn't perfect. And it all came crashing down. And Tom Brady wants you to believe that now, because he can laugh about it, that he's over it. And it doesn't fucking kill him every day. But of course it does. You can see a person that's fucking happy and one that's not. I wanted to start off with this because I think it's an important point. Yesterday, I woke up and I said, oh my God, I just have the best life. I got to hang out with the boys on Saturday night, did some laundry at my parents' place, watched the UFC with my brother and a few close friends that I've known for decades. We got to shoot the shit. And I woke up to this fucking amazing life that I have, that if anybody else was living it, they would kill themselves, because I would have killed myself fucking 5 years ago if I was living it and you told me that I'd be this happy. Because what do I have on the forefront coming up for me in my life? Well, June 1st, I'm moving back in with my parents at the age of 34 and looking forward to getting a job waiting tables this summer. If you told me that 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 5 years ago, I would have called you crazy. And I said, there's no way. There was no way that that's possible. Because I would have fucking put a bullet in my head before I allowed that to happen. But now I'm so fucking excited about it. Because anything that allows me to keep explaining this shit to you, keep this podcast going. I thought about a lot of jobs I could get for the summer, but none that would be an honest energy exchange, right? I could sell some cars, but I don't want to sell you a fucking lemon. I could go get a job at a bank, like I have done time and time again, because I understand the economic system better than anybody else I've ever met. But then I'd be contributing to the economic system that's oppressing everybody I'm trying to help. So I'd be working against myself. And I don't think you guys should be fucking eating most of the food that you're eating. But at least if I'm fucking delivering it to you, you're eating it either way. And I can utilize my energy to make it a more enjoyable experience for you. And I'll work for fucking tips the same way that I'm doing this fucking podcast. Oh my God. And it gets me jacked up. And I'm fucking excited about it because that means I got every day all fucking summer to get out there and do whatever the fuck I want. Okay. And that's all I'm focused on. You can't have a plan for forever. How many people saved up a bunch of money before they realized inflation was going to eat its worth right out from under you? Right? Saving up to buy a house or a car or whatever. But the prices go up faster than you can save. You didn't plan for that. How could you? Sometimes life is just treading water and learning to be grateful for all of the fucking beautiful things you have in your life. Because I guarantee you they're there. You just got to wake yourself up to them. Because once you have that, then you can do anything. I'm bound by nothing because I have everything I need right now. And I don't have to plan for forever. I just have to be working on some sort of plan every fucking day. And that's all this is. And my plan is to fucking do my best to help you people. Because I have decades of experience with this and it's compounding in my brain. I don't understand how you guys have any hope going out into the world yourself without anybody to teach you exactly where people are trying to steer you wrong. But I have that in spades. It's falling out of me. So that's what I'm going to keep doing. And I'm betting my fucking life on it, that there's going to be enough of you out there that realize that I'm not full of shit. And you watch this podcast enough and you see that, holy shit, this guy looks healthier than the other people that I see. And he doesn't have makeup on. All right? He's just talking. He's fucking riffing. He's talking honestly. He's not reading from fucking cue cards. He's telling you stories about things that he sees in the world and the way that he understands them. And there's value in that. And I'm asking for $3, $6, and $9 a month at patreon.com/Mugsy the Creator. Now, we did 30 minutes on that. And it's important because now you see how that was used as a tool and how it is going to be used as a tool in 2024, going into next year to clamp down on college campuses and whatever opinions you have on whoever it is you are going to vote for. That's where this is moving. Do you remember the Summer of Love? It's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy how the NYPD marched all of those officers and that equipment into the campus of Columbia because some students broke a window and were asking for Uber Eats. When at this time in 2020, in the Summer of Love, they were literally burning down police stations. I'm not kidding. You have to have a memory, okay? That's what I'm trying to tell you people. You have to have a memory, or at least find someone that has a memory for you that can remind you. Do you remember those bricks? All of those police stations lit on fire, cop cars being burned down? Defund the police. Remember all that shit? I didn't see any National Guard coming in to clamp down on those. Why? Because they were racial protests? Why? Because if you're black or you're fighting for black rights, you're allowed to burn the city to the ground? Fuck you. Fuck you. I see through your bullshit. I see you talking out of both sides of your fucking mouth. This and that aren't the same. 2020 was much worse. Where was the force then? Oh, that was a different thing. That was a different thing. And this is a different thing. This is a different thing that doesn't just have implications in this one moment. This has implications moving forward. All right? Boom. There's your current events section. 30 minutes in. Clean and neat. Now, what I want to talk to you people about too is the culture, because I have given a lot of credibility to my friends. All right? I give a lot of credibility to my friends. Chamath Palihapitiya, David Friedberg, David Sachs, and Jason Kalkanis of the All In podcast. Those four men got together a few years ago, and they are for private equity, venture capital, tech. It's a couple of them billionaires, and they discuss current events. But this week they didn't do that. They did something completely out of character for them. They had a guest, and they didn't talk about current events at all. Well, they only talked about one, and a documentary that was put out by Sheryl Sandberg. Sheryl Sandberg is a young World Economic Forum leader. And for those of you who don't know who the World Economic Forum is, the World Economic Forum, guided by Klaus Schwab, is a group of globalists seeking to get together and cooperate for a one world government. And guess what? It's not democratic. And so these men on the All In podcast utilized their platform to reach millions and millions of people, and it infuriated me. And that is the culture that we have built in this country. Or, well, I guess we'll see how this reaction goes to this fucking podcast. We'll find out next week on the All In podcast, because I knew that things were off to a rocky start when immediately David Sachs, seemingly the conservative mind on the podcast, had a last-minute board meeting that he had to attend. Now, I found that curious because there are no last-minute board meetings unless there's an emergency board meeting, which I checked the companies that he owns. There didn't seem to be any emergency moves made, like interim CEO or interim CFO, or a product launch or product disaster or lawsuit announced. And my guess is I'm not going to see any of that information coming out in the coming days, because what David Sachs realized is his platform was being hijacked, and he said, I'm not going to be a part of it. He didn't come out and say that. Instead, he made up a white lie. But men like me see through that white lie, and they understand the game that's being played. He was going to be utilized as a pawn to prop up misinformation that has already been disproven by the gray zone, which, all right. Sheryl Sandberg made a documentary about the rapes that went on October 7th. Now, all of the alleged rapes that went on October 7th. Now, October 7th was an atrocity, and as we talked about before, Israel had prior knowledge of this attack. Secondly, let's use our fucking heads. Maybe not all of you, which I cannot believe I'm saying to the internet right now, but that's the world that we live in, have never engaged in sexual intercourse. But most of you have. A couple of things have to happen, right? Just literally a couple things have to happen. One, if you were holding a weapon, you may need to put it down. Two, you'd need to take your pants off. Three, your dick would need to be hard. Four, you would need to hold down and restrain the victim you're intending to rape. 5, you'd have to remove their clothes. 6, apparently you'd have to continue slaughtering humans at the same time for any of this to have gone on. This theory has been discredited by my other friends, Max Blumenthal, and I don't remember exactly who the journalists were he worked with. Max Blumenthal is the editor of the Gray Zone, independent journalist. And Max Blumenthal and Aaron J. Mate have talked about this at length. They talked about all the evidence. They've sifted through it, and there isn't much. Seemingly, as Sheryl Sandberg would tell you, because they burned all of the evidence and there's no one living to talk about it. But there is no evidence to lend credibility to her theory. She claims she's seen pictures that are too horrible to show you. Well, I got a pretty thick, I got a pretty good stomach. I'll take a look. Let's let professionals be the judge of this. Okay? Why is the information so dangerous for us to see? Why is that evidence so horrific that I can't look at it with my own eyes and say, oh, yeah, it's also that horrific? Because you're a lying piece of shit, Sheryl Sandberg. You're a propagandist of the highest order, propped up by the most powerful among us. The people that control the means of production in the industry. And these things are being you are being propped up by the people that control these things. These World Economic Forum leaders. Okay? I see through this bullshit, and I was so angry. I was getting pissed off. I'm sitting here on Saturday morning with my wife on the couch, and I'm slamming the keyboard. She looks at me, she's like, that's the most angry typing you've ever done. Because I was watching men, my friends, that have taught me things, and I appreciate them for it. And they are too smart to not recognize that they were being used as a tool. And it's really going to be interesting to see how they react. Oh my God. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's going to. The first 24 hours on Twitter, the reaction was very negative. And how are they going to address it? Are they going to brush past it? It's going to speak a lot to their intention and who they are. And I'm so interested to see what Sachs has to say. So we'll see I guess we'll see what happens. But to any of the logical minds out there, I want you to understand that these people will use horrific deeds and claim they are being done so that they can do even more horrific things to the people they are claiming did them. That's the only way to justify this violence. That's the only way to justify the continuation of this game. Because the Jews around the world have united to say, not in my name. Not in my name. All right, guys? That's enough of that. That's enough of that. I was so pissed. I was so angry. I was just sitting here watching it, infuriated. But I see that everywhere. And if you guys don't see it, oh my God, you got to wake up and smell the coffee, but not all the time. Not all the time. Oh, we finally finished up on the condo apartment. Me and my fucking two buddies there. I told you, the Three Stooges, fixing up this apartment. So I started the story. I told you half of it a couple weeks ago. People just, their perspective is all out of whack, right? The guy who owns the apartment, he's a landlord. Hey, he gets two of his buddies, me, my friend, to try and help him fix up this place. But he's too stupid to not get the tenant out of there before we start doing construction. So what are we doing? We're painting walls. How the fuck do you paint walls with a person living in there? And it's a carpeted apartment. And the other thing we're doing is we're changing the floor board heating systems. We're pulling out the old shit and we're bringing in the new stuff. So fucking Tweedledee and Tweedledum. We paint the whole wall. We install all the fucking floor heating. Everything's good to go. In the last 5 minutes, I notice that the other guy put the fucking lid on the paint can. Or I thought I noticed. I didn't. because he didn't. And we kick that paint can over and it goes all over this fucking carpet. Now the entire apartment is wall to wall carpet. So fuck. Now we're going to have to put a carpet over this. But the tenant comes out and says, "Hey, I'm a fucking commercial painter. I know how to get this paint right out of this rug. All we got to do is just keep pouring water on it. Buckets and buckets of water. Just keep pouring fucking buckets and buckets of water." And we got a lot of the paint out. But the next day we come by and there's a fucking 2-foot bump in the middle of the floor because the particle board sucked up all that water and got fucking massive underneath the carpet. So now we can't just put another carpet over the stained carpet, which would have been completely and totally fine. Now we got to cut this carpet. We're going to have to replace the entire fucking carpet apartment. And while we're doing that, we might as well replace the tile floor in the kitchen. And while we're doing that, we might as well fix the laminate underlay underneath all the cabinetry. And motherfucker, don't you know it? We went to paint a wall and install some floorboard heating. And now we're redoing the entire floor of the entire apartment with tenants in there. Have you ever? You never have, because nobody would be that stupid. We got to move the fridge and everything out of the kitchen so that we can rip up the fucking kitchen. All right? Wow, people are living there. So at the end of every day's work, you got to get the fridge and the stove back into place so that people can still live there. Oh, regardless, we fucking did it. We cut the carpet in half in the kitchen area. We redid the kitchen first, right? So we redo the whole kitchen floor and all that shit. And then we cut the kitchen rug, roll that up, throw that away. The particle board now is crushed into what I can only describe to you is 100 bajillion pieces. And I think I'm being generous and I'm lowballing that because it was so many pieces of particle board that I could have bumped lines on that, like bumped lines of that, like Tony Montana, for decades. If that was cocaine in the 80s, I'd be a bajillionaire. All right, whatever. So we suck all that up. We throw down some plywood underlay. But now we don't know how to fucking install new carpet. So fine. We're going to let the carpet guys come in and do that part. And oh my God, it was just such a trip down memory lane for me. So we have to move now all of these tenants' furniture into this kitchen, which is maybe 50, 75, 100 square feet. So that's a fucking project. But we get it done. And the carpet guys, they're coming between 8 and 10. Now, we didn't know they're coming up from Connecticut. And it's 2 guys. I don't know where they're from, but somewhere in Central America. Speak English, seem to completely understand everything we're saying, but choose to speak in Spanish around us. I get it. You know, I wouldn't want me listening to your shit either. But it was such an unbelievable display of speed and precision that I haven't seen in a long time. When I was at the Federal Reserve, I worked with immigrants, basically all immigrants and me. Why? Because I don't fucking know. It was fun. And what we did was we ran these high-speed machines that regulated the physical money supply. So I'm talking about all of the money that the bank puts in the bank. We would count for them. We would destroy the currency, and we would do it at 120,000 bills per hour. That's how fast these machines went. So in order to run these machines at that capacity, you had to be really good at fucking organizing money. You had to be fast and you had to be precise. There was no room for error. In fact, if you made one error, you could be fired. That was it. You made one mistake one time, that's it. They'll fire you. And they weren't paying you a lot of money to do this fucking job. They were paying immigrants fucking $19.50 an hour. And this was, I don't know, 10 years ago, not even. Within the last 10 years. So you're getting close to 20 bucks an hour. And if you make one mistake, you're on camera at all times. At camera at all times. Everything you do is measured. Every step that you take, every movement that you make with your arm is measured to make sure you're not stealing fucking money and that you're doing it efficiently. And I haven't seen that in so long, but these guys cutting this carpet. So this is an apartment that's 1,100 square feet, wall to wall. They're putting in this carpet, and they did it in 2 pieces of carpet, which was crazy. It was nuts. So first they have to come in with this underlay, and this apartment is in the fucking projects. With all due respect to my buddy, he's got a, it's in the projects. Okay, so the floorboard is crooked, right? There's no straight corners. Everything's on a line. The floor actually slopes. There's a dip in it. So everything's off center. Nothing makes sense. And these guys come in, they take a look at it, and they're like, oh, yep. Okay. Boom. And that's it. They got up there at 9:30. They were out of there by 11:30. They did 800 square feet of fucking carpet. It was nuts. And I haven't seen something so beautiful in so long because they had to staple in. I mean, every movement that they had was calculated. It was like watching 2 figure skaters, right? When they do that figure skating together, I assume. I don't understand figure skating, but I assume the synchronicity that a couple performs in the duet figure skating is something like watching these 2 Guatemalans put in a fucking carpet. It was unbelievable. Each time they put a tool down, they finished with one thing. The other guy picked up that tool, seemingly as if he finished what he was doing at the same moment, and in one motion used it. Like this guy finished hammering a nail, and it was the last nail that he had to hammer, and he hammered that in and then put the hammer down, and in one motion the next guy picked up that hammer and also had a nail ready to be hammered in, and boom, just like that. They didn't waste a fucking second. It was crazy. And they had this staple gun, and he would just, as he would run out of staples, he'd be bang, bang, bang. And then his hand would so brilliantly reach to his belt where he had the staples, and his left hand already had the gun open, and he was reloading the staples and coming down in one motion, and he was reloaded. I can only imagine it's like watching a duel in the 1800s when, those 2 guys, they pace, they take, how many steps you want to take? 15. Okay. One goes off one goes off the other way, but the guns weren't that good. So they were 30 paces apart, and they're shooting at each other, and they're fucking missing. And maybe you get his leg, but he's got those boots on, so it kind of bounces off, right? But the guy that could reload the fastest, he'd get you every time. And if you had nothing to do in 1849 and you're waiting for somebody to hit gold, that was entertainment for you. And that was the highest level of synchronicity and precision that you could fucking see. And in 2024, I didn't recognize that that same level of precision and synchronicity is just as fun to watch with these 2 men putting in a carpet. I swear to God, I said to my buddies after, I said, I would pay $20 again just to watch them do that at the place they're going next. That was so amazing. It was just, oh. And these people exist all around you, right? We'll make that the consciousness portion of our podcast. And did you see how I fucking seamlessly weaved all 3 of those together? All 3 of those? We talked current events, college students, and why you guys need to not be dummies and see how you're being used to serve this higher agenda. And then we talked about the culture that would allow something like this. And we critiqued the culture that's already out there, a very popular podcast called the All In Podcast, and how they chose to utilize their platform to give time to a propagandist who the Gray Zone and Max Blumenthal had already worked to disprove the lies that they are spreading. Doesn't make them any less horrific. Hypothetically, those things would be horrific if they were to happen in this case, which they didn't, because the Gray Zone has already pointed to the fact that there is no evidence of it. And you shouldn't have wasted so much time invested in the college campus thing. You cannot waste so much time getting invested in what may or may not have happened on October 7th, because there is true synchronicity happening all around you, and it's beautiful to watch. There are people that are great at what they do. There are people that love what they do. I don't believe that these two men, it was their passion in life to install carpets. But they are as good at installing carpets as Tom Brady is at throwing touchdowns. That's for damn sure. And if you stop wasting your consciousness thinking about all of these things that you can't control, and you just observe the things that are so beautiful right in front of you, then maybe you have a chance of waking up every day like me, thankful, grateful that I have the best fucking life on earth. Because I rely on tips from you people, because you find this insightful, and hopefully it helps move you in some way. And if it doesn't, then fucking I hope you're hate watching it. And I hope that you send me 73 hate emails. And if I sell t-shirts, I hope you buy 73 hate t-shirts. And whatever we got to do to keep this thing moving. All right, guys? So enjoy the weather we got if you hear this coming up. Do not get lost in the minutia of every day, but see how it's tied together. See how they're going to use these things against you. Don't get caught up being a useful idiot. Take back your consciousness. I love you guys. I'm out.